Mayor?
I believe this quorum, the law of the state of West Virginia says that we are liable for that. And you're just saying that you don't think we have to pay, we're going to put it in a separate fund. But Ms. Quorum, we are liable to the state of West Virginia to pay. Pay is a different kind of word, folks. Pay doesn't mean pay you cash. Pay means to take that lump of money out of your general fund,
Is that the
or
Bible?
wherever you put it, and put it over here
Hello?
and earmark it for that. You don't spend that money. I mean, you have to move it. So when you're audited, I think the county just went through this, and although the paper was gracious to them, they had a violation for not doing that. So what you have to do is you have to make it a liability, and that's what he's doing. And what you're doing there is taking that money and putting it into another place and not on the books, incurring a liability.
No, Mayor, I'm saying put it in a trust fund so that we have that money set back
Trust-
in trust.
Why not just put it in a fund designated for the thing? I mean, is apples apples? I mean, to you put it in another fund, and what are you going to do with that fund? You're breaking the law when you do that. You are breaking the law. The
Now,
law
there's
of
a
West Virginia,
liability.
the law of the state of West Virginia says that you have to put it in a fund labeled the way he's going to label it.
So we're going to follow
and
that
you're just
law
saying you're not going
and
to
not
do
the
that.
rest.
No, he's putting it in the general fund. I want it in a trust fund like Fairmont does it. They have a trust fund for their OPEB.
He said to you, you were not at the meeting, he is forming a trust fund for some of this stuff.
But that's not what this says. I want that to go into that trust fund. So if that's what he's going to do, let's make that motion now and not put it in the general fund. I want it to go
You know,
into the
it's
trust
not
fund.
going anywhere in the general fund, it still could be designated like the workers' comp and everything else in there. They're not separate funds. But I do believe that you are breaking the law of the state of West Virginia when you do that, and you're putting that label on us, and I will not be accused of breaking the law of the state of West Virginia because you don't want it in that fund, you want it in another fund.
I believe there's an OPEB trust fund line that we can use.
Mr. Chairman,
That's yes.
Yes, there is on the chart of accounts of the issued by the state of, West Virginia Auditor's Office for that, yes. Either way, the expense needs to be incurred in the general fund, which is what this is.
So we could move it to that trust fund without breaking the law.
Not without, the net effect of that would not impact this revision. Okay, so there would need to be a separate resolution to do so to create the trust fund.
That's what I'm trying to do, is create a resolution so that we can take this money and say we will move it, that it will end up in that trust fund. It can only be used to pay our OPEB liability.
Yeah, correct. This right here, that would have no impact on this actual revision.
But we can make that a condition of this revision. That's what I'm asking for, is to make that a condition of this revision, that this OPEB money ends up in the OPEB trust fund with the line item that is designated for that.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Lynch? Ms. Lynch?
4 of us have been in an educational offering today put on by the West Virginia Auditor's Office. And one of the things that was discussed is right here. And we will be breaking the law if we do not do as you are recommending. We talked with Mr. Laura Ash. We talked with Ms. Donna Bork. They are both employed. And we are a city, and we are liable if we don't do this. We are breaking the law.
Mr. President, Eric, you just told me that we can legally put this in the trust fund line item. We have to do this first, and then we can make it a condition, put it in that line item, and that would not be breaking the law, correct?
Right, this needs to happen
Correct, but we can do that with the condition that it ends up in the trust fund line item.
as the council chooses.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I will point out, for everybody's knowledge here, including my own, I know this is true in council. Nobody can touch that money. I mean, this guy here That's right. This guy here cannot decide tomorrow we're gonna put a wing on this building, and we're gonna go out and build it. Can't do that. The only people who can touch the money is council. I mean, so I guess if you're trying to protect yourself, general fund is pretty good for this, because you can't take a dollar out of that general fund without council's permission.
Correct.
I mean, so you're pretty safe the way you're starting, the way he has it.
I understand that, Mayor, but this money would stay in this fund long-term. It's not a liability we will be paying at the end of the year, correct? It rolls over from year to year, and the trust would allow us to do that, plus make interest on it.
Ms. Corn, we have money in that fund from 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2014.
Where's it at?
Where?
That is all OPEB money. And we have paid it as a city. We had to pay it, we would have been written up by the state tax, state auditor's office, I'm sorry.
Are you talking about the pay-as-you-go or the?
No, we're not paying as you go. You set it aside, it's in here. Don't confuse me with paying money out. You have to take the lump sum like you do workers' comp and put it in that fund. It's there, it's not touchable. And you can see that money in the budget, I think, that the new budget, it's there, am I correct? You have that designated, or is it just in the general fund?
It's in the general fund.
It's in general fund, right? But when he gets his trust done, you can move everything out that's supposed to be put out here.
I'm just asking to make that trust part of this.
But you can't make it right here. He has to bring together a document that specifies a certain trust fund set up a certain way, done by a lawyer, I assume. I'm not sure, I'm not
We have
talking to
one, we're
him.
paying
But
right
I
there.
certainly not gonna make one up on
How about Santa?
Mr. President.
I'm sorry, just one, you want to go ahead.
Sorry, I have trouble.
In the finance meeting last Tuesday, this was what you said, am I correct, that you were going to create a trust for OPEB?
A trust account, yeah, preparing an RFP for a trust account.
Okay, and that is what you are requesting, am I correct? I liked the idea, and I would support it. I just wonder if we should create a separate resolution for the next council meeting, or how we slay it. If this gets passed, the next council meeting, we create the trust, vote to create the trust, and then appropriate the money. Am I making sense? I'm probably not, but I'm taking kind of what you're saying, plus mix what they're saying. I'm sorry. I'm just saying, kind of take what you're saying, creating the trust, and mix it with a resolution to come at the next meeting, that can be written up. Authorize.
Yeah, you're still taking two steps. I don't know why you have to delay the first step because of the second step.
Yeah.
The resolution authorizing the creation of the OPEB trust fund would be totally separate from this. The money has to be there in order to put it into that trust fund. I don't see why you have to delay one step and the second step. Nothing's going to happen to the money. You're going to put it in a slot in the general fund. It will stay there until when and if by resolution, council approves an OPEB trust fund. If they do, then you can move the money that right now would be protected in the fund into that special trust fund. I don't know why you need to wait to do that.
Mr. President, I think you're all on the same page here. I don't understand where the amendment to earmark that for a trust fund that he is going to create is a problem, and still passing this resolution with an amendment that this money go into that trust when he gets it set up. I don't understand why that's not acceptable.
I didn't want Mr. Bigler was just saying.
Well, her amendment
That's not really what
was
she
to
was saying.
earmark this for that specific trust fund until we got off track, but it seems like we're all on track. Why cannot we amend this motion to earmark this money for a trust fund that he is going to create?
Because council's not approved it.
Because we have a motion and a second, should it pass, is that
No,
sufficient?
you can't do that. It's not on the agenda. There's nothing on this agenda about an OPEB trust fund. You can't take action on it. There's nothing on this agenda that allows council to act on it. Because there's nothing on the agenda.
How convenient.
So her making a motion to earmark this for a trust fund is not sufficient.
Absolutely not. And I don't know that that would have any effect whatsoever, because what if council chose not to establish the trust fund?
There you go then.
So, Mr. Senator, are you saying then that basically that your resolution is null and void because it can't be done at this present time?
I don't, quite frankly, I've heard 3 motions, I'm not sure what I heard. If the motion was to create an OPEB trust fund, yes, can't take any action on that, therefore you cannot make a motion. If the motion was to earmark it for that, I'm just saying that doesn't make any sense because the fund at this point doesn't exist and there's no absolute assurance that council would create that fund. Therefore, in my mind, doesn't make any sense to do that at this point. Either adopt as is or don't adopt as is. If you adopt as is, that money goes over here when and if council creates an OPEB trust fund, then council can move the monies by separate resolution into that trust fund.
Mr. President, I would just like to say, that's what I was trying to say. That's one point in law. All right, so we're going to actually call for a vote on something that probably is not on the next question.
Let's clarify what the motion is.
Yes. Connie?
I heard the motion to move $455,000 of OPEB money to a trust fund. I later heard the word earmark, but I did not hear that in the beginning.
Do what? I'm not trying to be trite.
No, I understand. We cannot move it to, designate it to be moved to a trust fund.
The trust fund doesn't exist. Doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, the stabilization fund doesn't exist either, and you said if that doesn't pass, then I'm not trying to be difficult, Joe, I'm just trying to get
I didn't
consistency.
agree with that first one either.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be consistent, so I don't understand if we can't.
You're talking to the wrong guy about being consistent, because I agree with you on that. I have a problem with both, because we don't have that fund existing. We ought to take up, for that part, we ought to take up the stabilization fund first. It's on this agenda. That can be addressed.
Can I withdraw it with the condition that there's a trust fund resolution on the next agenda? No, we can't do that? Okay.
Okay. She will withdraw the second. Okay. Any other comments or questions about the resolution itself?
I do. I have another question, please. Joe, this is more for you. On the parking bond. When we pay off the parking bond, there's an ordinance that's not codified that stipulates that that's a enterprise fund. Once that is paid off, does that ordinance go away, or do we have to remove that? Do all the conditions of that bond go away as an ordinance, or do we have to?
Council not to take any action. That ordinance in effect would be non-existent because the bond would be totally paid off.
So the money that we have allocated to pay that bond, once we pay this off, we'll still have that excess money, that was it $5,000 or $6,000 a month we paid on that, something like that? So that money can then be used for other purposes. That was the only document that created an enterprise fund. So after that.
For the parking garage, yes.
Right, so now that there's no enterprise fund conditions, the only conditions on the books are that certain parking meter money goes somewhere. That money can then be allocated for other purposes because that ordinance no longer is in existence.
Parking meter money?
No, the money that we would be spending, the $5,300 and whatever dollars, is no longer encumbered as an enterprise.
But that money is coming out of the parking fund, am I correct? The money that
regular
that bond
payments.
comes out of the parking
The regular
fund.
payments are coming out of the parking fund. This right here,
I understand that. But the money, the future monies, if they didn't pass this, would continue to come out of the parking fund.
correct.
Those monies have to stay in the parking fund. That is an enterprise fund.
But it's that ordinance that with the bond is the only ordinance we have that creates it as an enterprise fund. Once that goes away, it will no longer be an enterprise fund.
No, the parking fund is an enterprise fund prior to that. It designates certain monies from that, from the parking, to go towards that. But no, the parking would always stay separate. It's always an enterprise fund.
Can you get me that? Because I couldn't find anything else that made it enterprise except for that bond.
Mr. President.
I don't know. Okay, you want to say anything? Okay.
Just my remembering the first two terms, the parking fund's always been an enterprise fund. So you have a budget for it, and you have the cost, you have people who work, you have other kind of costs that we're talking about, the painting, the stripes and everything else. But I do believe, Ms. Coram, that if there is an excess, Counselor, you tell me if I'm correct on this, I do believe there's excess money left over in that fund. You then can designate for someplace else, you can't
It
designate.
stays in parking,
But it has to use for something for parking or something like that in the city,
parking related.
with parking related, okay?
Yeah.
I got you. Thank you.
Okay, back once again to the regular resolution, any comments about it? If not, Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Now we're back to the beginning.
Yes.
The $2 million.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Wilcox,
Yes.
Ms. Lynch, yes. Mr. Brown,
No.
Ms. Coram,
No.
Mr. Carpenter,
No.
Mr. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Bigley,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Rockhold.
Yes, 6-3, the resolution passes. 4A.
A resolution requesting approval from the State Auditor's Office for a budget revision for $50,406 to fund a new street supervisor and a new sanitation supervisor.
President, I move to adopt the resolution as read. Second.
Motion second, any comments or questions about this? Not, Madam Clerk?
Ms. Wilcox,
Yes.
Ms. Lynch, yes. Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Coram,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mr. Bigley,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Rockhold.
Yes. Item number 5.
Resolution creating and establishing the City of Parkersburg Financial Stabilization Fund.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Wilcox.
I move to adopt the resolution creating and establishing the City of Parkersburg Financial Stabilization Fund.
Second.
We have a motion second, any comments about this? Not, Madam Clerk?
Ms. Wilcox?
Yes.
Ms. Lynch? Yes. Mr. Brown?
No.
Ms. Coram?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
No.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Bigley?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rockhold?
Yes, resolution passes 7-2. Item number 6.
Mr. President, I need to recuse myself from the room. Connie, can you please note I left the room?
Yes,
In minutes, thank you.
Item number 6. A resolution that the City of Parkersburg receive and accept the Point Park Marketplace Management proposal of James Kincaid and Marvin Edwards, subject to the negotiation of a lease acceptance to City Council for 5 years, and to rescind prior action from February 11, 2014, which authorized the transfer of ownership of the marketplace from the city to the Building Commission.
Mr. President,
Mr. Reynolds.
move to adopt resolution number 6.
Second.
Motion and second, holds the second, comments or questions about this resolution?
Mr. President,
Mr. Brown.
since I am a lifetime friend with Mr. Kincaid, we've served on other committees and organizations together, and I have worked for Mr. Kincaid over the years. I will abstain on this.
Any comments? Mr. President.
Technically, if you abstain, you have to leave, sorry. You just have to step up for this vote.
Anybody else want to say, we're not even voting? Mr. Brown. Yes.
Mr. St. Chair, I want to clarify, because I have a lot of questions asked of me. This is not the final action the council will take on this. I want to be clear that this goes to the gentleman and the mayor to negotiate the lease, and then comes back to council for final approval. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Any other comments or questions?
Mr. President,
Mr. Carpenter?
that being the case, I'd like to amend this resolution to state exactly that. I think we should authorize the mayor and the attorney to negotiate the terms of the lease and then bring it back in total.
It says that in clause 2, and which proposed lease shall thereafter be submitted to city council for its consideration. It's right in paragraph 2 of the resolution.
Mr. Carpenter, I just want to verify that this lease will come back to council. If council wants to change some things, they're welcome to change anything they want to change. If you want to put in the thing that you have to have a green and white striped door, if you're going to run this place, then a green and white striped door will be put in that lease. So you have doors open for what council wants to do to add to this lease. Okay. I just thought that they passed it to us, Mr. Sander and I, so that we could get some work done together, so to present you some sort of document that you could really go from A to B on, A to C on. That's all.
Okay, I withdraw my amendment. Would like, Mr. President, to add another amendment, please. I think a 5-year term is entirely too long and something in its infancy, and I think a year with review is more acceptable and more prudent business way. I'd like to amend this to show a 1-year term for review after that.
I'll second that motion for that amendment. Motion is second for 1 year. Any comments or questions about that? Mr. President, is that something that can be negotiated after the fact? If you have this lease proposal that they work out and it comes back to council, if we look at it and say, based on what we see here, 5 years, we don't like that, let's go to 1. Can we do that at that time?
You'll be able to change any term you wish. Obviously, subject to the people on the side.
Sure, but that is very possible. If it comes back and we see and we don't necessarily like everything we see, and we say, well, let's try 1 instead of 5 years, we can do that at that time, correct?
Yes.
Okay, you got comments about the amendment?
That 5 was put in there by the committee.
All right, vote please on the amendment.
Ms. Wilcox?
No.
Ms. Lynch?
No.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Bigley?
No.
Mr. Reed?
No.
Mr. Rockhold?
No, resolution fails. After resolution, anything else? If not, the vote on the resolution.
Ms. Wilcox?
Yes.
Ms. Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
No.
Mr. Reynolds?
No.
Mr. Bigley?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rockhold?
Yes, resolution passes. Resolution number 7, I'll roll for Molito. If you'd be so kind, Rick, to go get those 2 council members back, please.
Item number 7, resolution amending city council's rules and regulations to repeal Rule 2, which allows the pre-council meetings, and Rule 3, meeting notices, to bring our rules into compliance with West Virginia open meetings law.
Mr. President, move to adopt the resolution number 7, please.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion, a second comment or discussion about this.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Wilcox.
pretty well versed in the open meetings law. And it says in that open meeting law that council can come together, talk over items, they just can't make decisions. And this rule's been on the books for years, both of them. We've not had to use them. Hope we never use them. But if there ever comes an emergency or a time that we do need to get in and talk a little bit, if we take this out, then we can't do it. And right now I can't think of anything that we might have to, but used to, that's the way they did it, instead of having finance meetings and public works meetings, personnel meetings and whatever. And I just feel that these don't need to be removed. As long as if we do have meetings, we don't make decisions, then we are still in compliance with the open meeting law. Thank you.
Mr. President?
The informal meetings should, we haven't used them for probably 15 years. The reason we haven't used them is they weren't proper. What happens there, even if council is not making a decision, it's leading up to a decision. As you recall, that informal meeting is pre-council meeting, whether regular or special. It provides information to council in an environment that is, although open to the public, isn't open to the public because it's held in small council chambers. In my mind, it serves no purpose. That same thing can and will be done in open chambers. That's where we've done it now for at least the last, I'd say 14 years. That's the proper venue for it. That way everybody gets to hear, all council members and the public in attendance. In my mind, having that rule on there opens council potentially up to a problem where there would be a violation of the open meeting laws, and it doesn't create any true avenue or purpose that would benefit council or the city.
Mr. Chair.
No, Mr. Carpenter. Mr. Sander, am I incorrect in assuming that this is just cleaning up our rules in compliance with West Virginia meeting laws?
Yes, correct.
So that's all we're doing is complying with the state and updating our rules to reflect as such?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Lynch?
Mr. Sander, with all the other things that's been going on with this council for the last few months, was there any particular reason you brought this resolution to council now?
I was asked to by a council member,
Who asked you to do it?
Ms. Coral.
Thank you.
And by the way, I agree with these proposals.
I didn't ask you to agree or not.
I'm still advising that I do agree totally.
Smart
Mr.
ass.
President, I asked for an opinion from the Ethics Commission on the informal meeting, and I sent it back and I shared it with Mr. Santer and asked for his guidance, and this is what he presented, and I appreciate his work on that. Thank you.
Mr. Sander, can you just go a bit deeper into Rule 3, part of public notice publication, please?
Pardon me?
Part 3, Rule 3, concerning notices.
Use your mic.
The
President.
second part in which you point out here is meeting notices to bring our company into compliance with West Virginia open meetings law. What are we out of compliance with, you tell me?
The time frames. We gave, our rules allowed for too short of a time frame, didn't allow for proper public notice.
And what time can we go to now?
Pardon me?
Presently, we have Thursday, Tuesday.
We had as short as 12 hours on one.
Down on Park Beach, that's
Which one are you looking at?
part in Rule 3, down says
Notices?
Right. And it says Park Beach, a special meeting will be called at any time. That last line is just provided by law for institutions selected.
72 hours versus 3 business days, totally different. 72 hours could include a Saturday, Sunday not considered a business day. 3 business days, still 72 hours, but it's different than saying 72 hours. Again, 72 hours could include a holiday, could include a Saturday, Sunday, not permitted under West Virginia open meetings. It has to be 3 business days.
So they are limiting business days Saturday, Sunday.
It requires that the 3 days be business days, which would be days when the city building's open for business.
All right, anything else on this? Madam Clerk?
Ms. Wilcox?
No.
Ms. Lynch?
No.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Crum?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Bickley?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rockhold?
No. Resolution passes. We could ask you to leave. Thank you.
Well, we're going to, at voting time.
Excuse me.
We could ask you to live here. I'm gone.
Resolution number 8.
Resolution authorizing Mayor Jimmy Colombo to sign a memorandum of understanding between the Ross Innovative Employment Solutions Corporation and the city of Parkersburg.
Mr. President,
Mr. Reed.
move to approve resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions about this? Not the vote, please.
Ms. Wilcox?
Yes.
Ms. Lynch? Yes. Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Corum?
Yeah.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Bigley?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rockwell?
Yes. Finally, to ordinance final reading.
An ordinance authorizing the lease purchase financing for 2 Packer trucks for sanitation department, $273,926, 3 years, 1.58%. BB&T.
Mr. President,
Mr. Reed.
move to approve ordinance on final reading.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions about this? Not the vote, please.
Ms. Wilcox?
Yes.
Ms. Lynch? Yes. Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Corum?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Bigley?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rockwell?
Yes. Not, we entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President, move we adjourn.
Before we do, can I make an inquiry? Have we made any decision yet on when the committee of the whole might be meeting for budget meetings? I mean, if you haven't, fine, if you haven't, I'd like to know what those are. So.
Okay, we are going to have an open meeting, March the 9th. That'll be a public hearing meeting. That on the budget,
What time?
6 o'clock. Now, when it comes to the budget hearing, they're going to start the following Monday. I think it's the 14th. I don't have my calendar, but let's see, 8, 9, 10. It'd be the 14th. That would be Monday. That will be the police department. On Tuesday will be the public works department. And on Wednesday, it'll be the fire department. We might put you one day in between if you need to be. If you're going to be here this week, we can put you off. But those 3 departments, and that's the only departments that we're going to go over those 3 nights. So the police department will be one night only. Fire department will be one night only. Public works will be one night only. And the rest of the department heads, we'll get with them at a later date. But right now, that's what we're saying.
Those also 6 o'clock starts. Or are they 7?
I think we're going to make it 6.
Mr.
14th, 15th, and 16th.
Mr. President.
Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Yes.
Mr. President. Mr. Bigley.
Eric, just a quick question. When do we have to have the budget submitted to the state? I'm curious on that date. I think I heard it before, and I just want to verify.
No later than March 28th.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I ask a question? Why are we waiting? We have to remember, we have to allow time after we get this all done. Eric has to put it in a totally complete different format to submit this to the state. And I see no reason why we have to wait so late to start these meetings.
Well, there's still people that have to go to the budget meetings. And I think that they're scheduled. Then we'll have on March the 8th and then on the 14th we'll start. We can do it on Saturdays and Sundays if we run into problems.
What people you talking about has to go to the meetings?
Well, I was on Thursday night. I don't know if anyone else was on or not. I know JR's on later. So I'm trying to accommodate them to get through the meeting first.
Ms. Wilkes, you have a question?
I was just wondering why we're waiting so long to work on the budget. It seems like, we were given this budget first part of February, and we're not going to start on it until March. I fail to see
Chief Taylor. Can I help you?
Cindy Collins. Your dad's like, I'm out of here.
Is there anybody you want to talk to? I mean, I was here for this Thursday.
Way too much. Wait, see ya.
Bye.
I didn't understand 90% of what you want to do.
So that means now, before city council meeting, they can all be in that little room back there. No, they for an hour and a half before the meeting starts.
Can you believe that? Now, the ethics commission ruled that that wasn't legal, and then they're voting against it.
Well, they just
Because
asked
I
to,
did,
they,
because I
yeah,
did.
that she asked specifically because it's you. No.
Well, it was funny because 6:30,
Oh, I know, they sit in there.
all of them were.
I know.
Well,
Make their,
Yeah. Oh, I know.
they're in there every week.
I sent it to the ethics commission,
They
but
shut the
I
door.
said, I don't think this is in the spirit of the open meeting law that we're allowed to have this informal meeting. And I said, can you please look at the notices, because there's nothing noticed about that meeting. If the meeting was noticed and we had an informal meeting, that would be one thing, but there was no notice. So then they said,
We can just go in there and sit down with them.
well, yeah. And then they said, well, no, that informal meeting, under certain conditions would be okay, but not under these. And by the way, your meeting notices are wrong.
did you hear the circus music was out the door?
Joe Santa just told me I'm right.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, didn't you say you were wrong?
Yeah.
You were saying you were wrong.
Goodbye says it all.
Now, when you vote against the Ethics Commission's ruling on your informal
Excuse me.
meeting,
And the last was just wonderful. I was up there and just died when they were voting no because Miss Coram brought it to the table.
Unfucking real. Next time,
Yeah. We're gonna have a conversation.
oh, we're gonna have a big old conversation. Fucking asshole looks at me and goes like this. He goes, and I looked at him, I went,
Yeah.
you heard him.
You know what I just heard is
Do what? Who?
More?
Giles? Oh, Mr. Jones and me.